There aren't many tools that can drastically change the look of your work. These lenses from Blazar can. So Blazar isn't a household name yet, but recently they've been putting out some really interesting lenses at some really affordable price points. The Remus series is their take at what a budget anamorphic lens should be. And I have to tell you, they are really impressive pieces of glass at a really reasonable price point. And I feel like I should share with you the results of what I got. Well, the first thing you notice about these Blazar lenses is the build quality. The build quality on these are spectacular. They are fully metal built. Even the lens cap is metal. They feel sturdy. They feel pretty hefty as well. And I have nothing to complain about. They feel like they are definitely worth the price. Of course, it's not all about the looks, but they feel sturdy, and that's something I appreciate. The focus throw is very long, but not to the point where it slows you down. It's long enough to be accurate, but short enough to be quick on the field for a solo shooter. That's great. The aperture ring is declicked. It goes all the way from T2 to T22, so that's great. And you can see just how compact these are. To see it for yourself, that's pretty impressive, I mean, for cinema lens and definitely an anamorphic. For comparison, this is a Canon lens, a 35mm. They're almost the same size, and this one even includes a PL to RF adapter. So tiny, in fact, that I can put it in my cup holder in the car, and it fits, and it's great. That's just to demonstrate how small these are. Now, let's talk image quality. This is the most important thing about any lens, and if this set doesn't do it very well, then why should we bother? The first thing you notice about these lenses is the barrel distortion. And this is a unique aspect of anamorphic lenses, good anamorphic lenses. These have some really amazing barrel distortion, pretty crazy around the edges on the wider end, but for me, this is part of the look of anamorphic, so it's not a problem. Yes, you can fix it in post, but I really wouldn't bother with it, unless you are going for a cleaner look at the end of the production. Another thing you notice right away with anamorphic lenses is the depth, the amount of depth that you get by shooting anamorphic. And this is very similar to medium format photography in photography terms, because let's say you use a 50mm lens, spherical lens, you get a 50mm compression, but then again, you get a 50mm field of view. If you use a 50mm anamorphic lens, you get a 50mm compression, but you get a much wider field of view horizontally, because you stretch the image by 1.5 times. That gets you around 35mm in the equivalent. So you get much wider shots, but still get compressed backgrounds. So this is very special at the end. The Remus lenses deliver sharpness well above their price point for an anamorphic lens. Yes, they are not clinical at all, and they shouldn't really be clinical because they are anamorphics. You wouldn't want them to be super sharp and super clinical without any aberration, but once you stop these down from T2 to, let's say, T28 and T4, they do sharpen up quite a bit. T5-6, I mean, it's probably the sweet spot of this lens, but I do like the funkiness that you get in T2. This image currently is shot in T2. On the topic of chromatic aberration, yes, they have some chromatic aberration. It seems to me more like elation, but they do suffer from chromatic aberration in the brightest regions of the frame against backlight, but nothing too bad, nothing too severe, nothing that would stop me from using those images. So at the end of the day, they are fine. And how are the flares on these lenses? I really do like them. The flares are gorgeous. I got the blue version, and I think this is what all anamorphics should be, because this is what we know from the movies. Does it ruin your images? No. Does it flare really easily? Not really. If you are pointing a light straight towards it, let's see. Yeah, you can get it to flare, but it's nothing too severe. And they have the anamorphic characteristics. They flare really nicely actually. They don't feel anamorphic, but it's not too much. It's not overpowering for everyday use, and I really do like the look of those flares. Another thing to note about these lenses is the color tone that you get out of them, and I feel like the color tones are pretty natural. They don't suffer from a green tint or a purple tint. They are pretty accurate to what you see in real life, and with the majority of my other lenses, it's pretty close, so I can mix and match shots. So there is no problem with the colors here. The focus throw is long, as I said before, but it's not too long to the point where it slows you down. So I don't feel the focusing here, because it's manual focus, of course, but I don't feel it actually slows me down in the shoot like I thought it would. If you never shot manual focus before, it is definitely different to autofocus. Of course it is. But on these lenses, it's different to, of course, photo lenses, because it's not focused by a wire or anything like that. So you feel connected to it. It works. I have no problem with manual focusing this. If you are used to relying on autofocus, then there's definitely a learning curve here, but it's not something to worry about, actually. And finally, for me, the price of these lenses. Each of these in the set is under $1,000. So I feel like it's a good price point for the majority of indie filmmakers and lobbyists. So you can buy a lens and get into anamorphics for the first time. I really do appreciate the price point. It's not too expensive. It's not too cheap where they needed to cut corners in a lot of different aspects of this lens. So they're still great optically. They have a look of their own, which is really nice. The build quality is actually superb. It's up there with many other lenses that are 5 to 6 times the price of this. So I've got no problems with the build on it, which is magical. It comes in a PL mount, which is great. You can also get it in an EF mount. Another thing, as I said before, these are 77mm thread on the inside, so you don't have to use a matte box to use filters on, which is actually very usable, because right now I use my variable ND from Nisi, and it works surprisingly well. When you think of what they are offering you, there is really nothing better to get. If you want an anamorphic, then either it's really expensive or it's cheap, but it's really bad. These lenses are pretty cheap, really good optically. They got a look, and they perform very well. And they cover full frame sensors, which is spectacular. The majority of anamorphics under $3,000 can't cover full frame sensors, and that's a bummer. That's a real big deal, because everyone is shooting full frame now. So should you pick up these lenses? If you're a filmmaker, which is on a budget like we all are, I'm not talking Hollywood levels, but everyone is on a budget, and you want to try something new, you only shot spherical lenses up until this point, you want to try something a little different, you want to have a different look to your work, you want to stand out in the crowd, try these anamorphics. I feel like they can help you stand out, and I feel like they are a great value. These are not perfect lenses, but for the price, again, they are super hard to beat. That's it for today, folks. If you enjoyed this episode, if you have any questions that you want to ask about the Remus lenses, or just want to geek out about gear, drop me a comment down below or a DM on Instagram, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye bye.